Hi there, everybody. Welcome. I'm excited today because I'm Rose, by the way, if you are new to me, Rose Lounsbury. I'm a minimalism and simplicity coach, and I am joined today by someone who is awesome. She is one of my students who took my 6-week decluttering challenge last fall, and she has since then been working with me in one of my maintenance programs. And she's going to talk with us today about her experience in the challenge and also just her experience as a mom, as an aspiring, working toward minimalist mom. I have also been to her house and I have seen that she is practicing what she's preaching. And I just think I wanted to bring Anna on today to show you guys that no matter what's going on in your life or who you are, if you wanted to make a change in terms of simplifying your life, decluttering your things, minimizing the excess, that it is possible. So welcome, Anna.
Hello.
Hello. So Anna, why don't you start off? And also, guys, by the way, I can see some of you on there. Hi, Jessica. There'll be a recording, yes, of this, Jessica. It'll be on my Facebook page and I'll share it to you guys. So if you are watching this live with us, feel free to make comments or post questions in the comments so that Anna or I can answer them. Because that's the beauty of Facebook Live. That's why we do Facebook Live, is so that we can interact and ask questions and answer questions. So please feel free to pop questions below so we can talk about them. But Anna, I wanted to start off by having you tell us just a little bit about you, your background, and kind of what brought you to wanting to be a minimalist or wanting to declutter more.
Yeah. Well, so just a little bit about me. I am from the Dayton area. I've grown up here most of my life, and I live now in the Kettering area, and I am a physical therapist, and I work part-time as of about coming up on 2 years. And I live here with my husband, and we have 2 kids, 3.5 and newly 7, and then our 2 pets, so a dog and a cat. And so we have just been kind of working towards and on our decluttering and minimalism goals since probably last fall timeframe, when I took your class last fall. So that's kind of where we got the ball rolling, and well, I got the ball rolling, and the family joined along. So, and then just to kind of share about what brought me in that direction. I feel like it kind of snowballed over the last few years with young kids. My husband and I both work in the healthcare field, and we were both working full time for several years. And it was just, we got into a rut of, we would be cleaning. We felt like we were constantly having things to do, and then it was never done. And you feel like you are exhausted when you come home, and you don't have time to relax and have good family time because you have this long list of things to get done, and it just had been going on and on and on. So I actually had taken my kids to one of our local libraries, and I picked up the little flyer at the front that had like the events for the month, and I saw you on there and just your topic. It was one of your speaking events. And so that day, I remember I came home and kind of looked you up on social media, and decided to go to the class. And from there, just was like, whoa, this is great. Just kind of lit the fire and started the ball rolling to just get out of that rut of that day-to-day, cycle where you're not getting anything done.
Yeah, I think like what struck me about what you just said is something that I know I experienced when I was a full-time working mom. So my background is as a teacher, and so I was teaching full-time. I have triplets, so they were 2 years old, and it was that constant feeling. My husband also works full-time. That constant feeling like I am constantly picking up this house, and like every day I'm doing it over and over again. I sometimes say I felt like Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog's Day, where it's like every day is the same day and you're just working the same and doing the same thing. And okay, I'm picking these shoes up again. I'm picking the shoes up again. How would you say, since doing my class and obviously going on this journey and doing the work, how has that changed for you?
So I feel like, for the most part, it's more of like a different mindset. I have different thoughts now when I'm like out shopping, or you go and you have a list of things and then you get sidetracked with the things that are not on your list. But now I'm thinking about it a lot more. And do I really want to, do I need this? Do I need to bring this into my home? And it's just a different shift where your mindset is different. Like, oh, this is cute, I'll buy this, and I don't really need it. So that, I think, made a big difference for me after taking the class, was just that shift, and really thinking about what I'm trying to get rid of stuff, so why do I need to bring more things in?
Right. So it's that idea that it sounds like what you're saying is it's changed the way that you think about stuff. Because, and I know that I experienced this as well, that you suddenly realize the more things I bring in, the more things I have to take care of. And if I feel like every single day I'm just on a cycle of constantly, pick up, wash, rinse, repeat. If I continue to bring things in, I'm just keeping myself on that cycle. But if I can let things go without bringing in more than I need, I can start to break that daily cycle. So I think that sometimes what people don't realize is that that cycle of constantly picking up, it doesn't really start just in your house. It kind of starts at stores. It starts when you're just kind of unconsciously bringing things more and more and more into your home without letting things go. And so when you break that cycle, with which you are so right, it happens in your mind. When you're able to break that cycle, you see the change in your life. Because what would you say in your daily life, your evenings, I'm guessing it was like evenings and daytime, do you feel like it's easier now?
I do. We've implemented some just different routines also, of trying to pick up, 10 minutes each night, or, before the kids go to bed, we try to put things away. And so that we never used to do. And we used to let it build up, and, then it was like a whole day of picking up, which wasn't really even cleaning. It was just picking up. And so now we try to do that on a more routine basis. And it's not a perfect system, but it's better than what we had in the past.
Yeah. And I think that's something important for people to know, that it's never perfect. It's never like your house doesn't ever require maintenance. And I think that's something that people, it's like a little bit of a misconception. But if you think of it like exercise, right? It's not like you can go through an exercise class. Maybe you do an exercise program for 2 months and you get in really good shape, and then you never have to exercise ever again, right? You're still going to have to do something on a regular daily basis to maintain it. But it's never as intense as that initial time. So I did want to ask you a little bit about time, because I know a lot of people who want to do something like this, or they want to make any kind of change in their life, we only have 24 hours a day, right? And you're a prime example of someone who has a very full life. You have a job outside the home. You have 2 small children. You have 2 pets. We were just talking before we got on about pets, because my kids want a dog. I was like, Anna, I don't know if we can get a dog. I don't have enough time for a dog. So you've got pets, you've got a husband, you've got a job, you've got 2 little kids. How did you find the time to do this in your life?
For me, I think it was more about prioritization, and, really looking at what are the goals for our family, and how do we want to be spending our time. And also then just looking at how can I break this down into like small chunks of time, because there's no way you can get everything done in one, if you set aside a full day, there's things that you can get done, but not fully. So setting aside just little chunks of time, or, 10 or 15 minutes at a time, or a half an hour at a time. And sorry,
hey, hi, little people. You're on Facebook Live.
Yes. So
if you need to like save someone from like jumping off a couch or something, Anna, you do it. This is not worth a child's injury. Okay.
So yeah, setting aside little chunks of time. I'll open the door real quick.
Yes, let them in. Don't let those children stay outside or wherever Anna has put them. I'm sure they're very safe. But I think what she's saying, and this is something that I think is something that a lot of people think, is they think, well, they look at their whole house, right? And they think, well, how am I going to declutter all of this? It's so overwhelming. It's kind of like if you wanted to, climb a mountain and all you did was look at the whole big mountain, right? And you're like, wow, that's so big. It's, like 3,000 feet tall. I don't really know how tall a mountain is, but 3,000 feet sounds tall. It's so tall. Like, how am I going to get to the top of that? But if you just looked at, the first half mile of trail, right, and said, okay, I'm going to just climb this first half mile, okay, today. And
Okay,
then
sorry
maybe the
about
next day, you're fine. Oh my gosh, take care of children. I'm lucky enough that I'm at the meeting room of the Pigeon Forge Public Library. And yeah, that's a funny thing. We're on vacation right now, and the Wi-Fi at the cabin in Tennessee where we are, like, it said Wi-Fi, and I was like, okay, Wi-Fi, that's cool. But it actually, it says you can only check email and do Google searches. No, I was like, crap, I have to totally do streaming video tomorrow. So the Pigeon Forge Public Library meeting room is being very nice to me today. So here I am.
Yes.
But I was talking about that idea that, sometimes people think if they want to declutter their home, like it seems very overwhelming because they're looking at the whole home instead of breaking it down like into smaller component parts. And that when you do that, it actually becomes much easier. You're welcome to have your kids sit with you, Anna, if you want to. Sometimes they want to just look at themselves. I know my kids like to. See, this is real life, right?
Yes.
She's a real mom. I wasn't joking that she's a busy mom.
Go ahead and go to the potty.
That is an important thing to do.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you, so how do you feel like the class helped you with that whole, like, taking the big and breaking it small? Because I feel like that's something people struggle with.
Yes, I felt like the class was great for me. I found it very motivating. Each week you get to interact with the other people in the class and like get to see their before and afters and realize like, oh, like, there's other people out there like me who are working on the same kinds of things. And so for me, I felt like having that motivational piece was huge. And then also I feel like gave very specific tasks, and I do great with a to-do list. I like to make to-do lists. I like to make check off lists, cross them off. And so I felt like doing the class, each week you had a set task or an area of your home that you were working on, and it really just helped me stay motivated. And each week I felt very like driven. It like lit a fire for me. And so I found it very easy to stay focused. Unlike now. And
your hair is looking beautiful with your hairdresser there, by the way. Yes. You're looking great.
So yeah, I felt like the class was great. And I've told you before too that I'm a procrastinator at heart. And so I'm someone who like, oh, I'll get to that later and it's fine. I can do that next week. But having the class there to really set these specific goals and, have others working alongside with you really helped me.
Well, I think it comes down to accountability, because a lot of times, there are a lot of things in life that we know we should do or we want to do, but having someone keep you accountable. And I think that's the important thing that people know is that I teach this class live. I actually have a recorded version of it that anybody can watch it anytime. It's really as expensive as the live version. But I found that teaching something live, when on Sunday night, I'm going to show up live. And if you show up, I'm going to tell you what to do. And I'm going to lay out a challenge for you. And I'm going to give you the step-by-step. I think that makes a difference. Like, just like exercise, like we could all exercise on our own and get in really good shape. But if I pay for a class with a group of like-minded people, and we're going to show up 3 times a week or whatever, and that teacher's going to tell me exactly what exercises to do, in what order, I'm much more likely to stick with it than if that teacher just sent me a video of what I should do. So I think that's kind of a cool thing about this class that's different than a lot of other ones that are out there for the same thing. And since we're talking kids, and we hear your wonderful children, I was wondering if you could just tell us how you got your husband and your kids on board, because that's a question I get asked a lot. Like, yeah, I want to do this, but my husband and kids will never go along with it. So how did you bridge that gap?
So for me, it's funny that you asked this, because I specifically remember when I went to your class at the library, and I was sitting there and I felt like so motivated and like, oh, this is awesome, and I'm going to start doing this stuff. And I raised my hand and asked, like, so how do I get my husband to do this too? And because that was like, I feel ready to go, and I'm like, how do I get him to feel the same way? And so I felt like I had been like, more of like the nagging, we got to get this, we got to do that. And you make maybe a little bit of progress, but not, it's not that mindset shift.
Yeah.
And so for me, after... Sorry.
Anna, you are just rocking it. I love this because I feel like what you're showing right now is like what almost everyone I have ever worked with experiences, right? It's like, I want to focus on something. I want to focus on this interview or decluttering my house. But you know what?
Yes.
That's not the only thing going on in my life.
Yes.
You've got kids, you've got jobs, you've got other things. And I love it. Actually, I love that we have this little person here because it just shows that you can still make great progress without having like this perfect uninterrupted time.
Yes.
Which is what we all want, right? Like, where's my uninterrupted 4 hours where I can tackle this room? It's not going to happen, right? But just because that probably perfect uninterrupted 4 hours is not going to happen doesn't mean that you say, well, to heck with it, and I'm just not going to do anything, right? You can still make a big change. So you were saying that you came to the class and you asked me the question.
Yes.
So how do I get my husband on board?
I feel like I started out with that, like, the nagging, like, oh, we got to do this. I need you to do this, work on this. But then after kind of learning a little bit from you in the class and the course last fall, I felt like modeling the behavior. And so here, scoot back. So modeling the behavior where my family could see the progress that I was making really helped. And so for me, I would, like each week I'd be like, oh, like, look how good this looks. And remember, look at this big bag of trash I just got emptied out of the bathroom and the shelves. And I would show them and say, look, look at all this work that mommy did. And that was really helpful for the kids to see too. And so I also would try to, and I still do this for my kids, anytime I take a donation bag to like a donation center, I try to bring them with me. And then we talk about like where we're going and why we're going there and what are we doing with this, 2 bags of stuff. And I feel like that's really just started conversations that has been beneficial for my kids to see and hear. Because what I didn't do is go through and do like a giant declutter and like we're throwing, getting rid of all these toys, because I felt like that would have been a little traumatic for them to just go in, and spend time and say, okay, we're getting rid of this, fill this bag, we're getting rid of it all. And so I just felt like modeling a little bit of that behavior and then having conversations about it was really helpful, and starting a couple different routines. So one thing I picked up in your class last fall was that I kind of revamped my entryway area because I have a very small one. And I put lower hooks for the kids' coats because all we had was high hooks. And so now they've got each their own hook and a little shoe bin. And I felt like now it's more of a routine. And so it's almost like an automatic, occasional reminders because they're kids, but now they come in and they know their coats go on the hooks and their shoes go in the bin. And that's something that I did that kind of figured out in your class last fall. That's made a big difference. It's small, but not having to myself hang up their coats every time. It seems little, but it makes a big difference.
Well, it does. And I think that's another thing that you're kind of hitting on is it's not just about decluttering and letting go. And I love how you talked about you're modeling the behavior first, and then you're like inviting them into the conversation, and you're starting the conversation with your kids about why you're doing this. Because I think a lot of times when people say, well, my husband and kids will never get on board, I think often it's never been explained to them why it matters. Like, why does it matter that we donate to organizations? Why? And it's not just for the way our house looks or so that mommy's not yelling all the time, but that the things that we have been blessed with can actually be really beneficial to people who don't have as much as we have. And even young children can understand that, right? That we give because we've been blessed. We give to make the world better. And yes, it makes our house easier to deal with, but it's a good thing for the world to give when you have been given so much. So I love that you're starting that conversation with your kids now, because I know a lot of people think, well, my children, like they'll never give it up. Like I have a lot of parents who tell me their kids are hoarders. And I say, no, your kid's probably not a hoarder. Like hoarding is not for most people like an inborn quality. Your children have not been taught how to let go.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
what it is. And like anything, like they can be taught to do multiplication. They can be taught how to tie their shoes. They can be taught how to let go when they're ready. And everybody can be taught that skill. And I think a lot of us just don't know how to teach our kids that skill. And I think that's one of the things I love and get really excited about in the course, is that I teach people how to teach their kids this stuff.
Yes.
So then it's not just on you.
Yeah.
Could you talk at all about your spouse? Because obviously he's not a kid.
Yeah.
He's a grown-up. How did it go? Because you said before that you were doing some nagging.
Yes.
How did it go when you like invited him into this?
Great. I kind of did the same thing as far as like, look at the bathroom now, or look at the kitchen, and look at all these things are cleaned out, and kind of just generated some good positive conversations that we had, and then one day he cleaned out his dresser, and we went through our shoes, and I ordered this shoe rack, and before, like, it was kind of a messy, jumbled shoe bin. Mm-hmm. And so then I ordered the shoe rack, and we put it together, and he hung it up, and now like we have much more organized shoes. And so it's like little stuff like that, but he's totally on board and was like, this is great. And
yes. So when he cleaned out the dresser, did you have to ask him to do that, or did he just do that?
No, I came in and there was a pile going, and so I was like, let me get you a bag.
You're like, let me help. Yes. Yeah, and that's what I think is so amazing. And because I tell people this, and people don't believe me, but I say, if you are the change that you want to see in your house, right? Like Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. I say, be the change you wish to see in your house. If you model the behavior, the other people in your home will go along. It is like magic. I don't exactly know how it works, but if you can model the behavior without nagging, harassing, or pushing them, they just sort of naturally come along with you. And I've seen it happen in my own life, and I see it happen in people like you. And I just want people to know that does happen, and it can happen for anybody. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you one more question, because I know you've got kids to do. But what would you say to somebody who might be watching this, and maybe they're a mom, or even I have a lot of people who watch this and they are empty nesters, and they're kind of looking at decluttering in terms of downsizing, right? From maybe the house they did raise their little people into a smaller home, but they're overwhelmed. Like either way, that person is overwhelmed by the amount of stuff in their home. They are pressed for time. They're looking at the mountain of stuff, and they don't know how to get started. What is something that you would say to that person?
I think my first thought is just start somewhere, and maybe carve out, even if it's 10 minutes or one task, because it's easy to get overwhelmed if you, like, I went around, I think when I did this myself, and then when you came over to my house, but you make this long list, and it's easy to get overwhelmed and think, oh, I'm never going to be able to do all of this. But just starting with either a short chunk of time, either every day or every week, or I'm going to get this task done by this date. And I found it very better for me to start with my stuff and work from there. So, my shoes, my clothes, I cleaned out my jewelry bin. Like, I hadn't done that in years. And so just starting with an area that motivates you and that's like personal to you, I feel like then gets the ball rolling to move into other areas.
And I like to let people know too, that is great, that the way that I structure the 6-week challenge is starting from your things and then moving into the areas that you share with other people, so that you can make decisions. I say we build up our minimizing muscles on some easier spots before we move into some of that harder stuff like memorabilia and photos and those kinds of things. Those are at the end. So Anna, I just want to say thank you so much for being on here with me today, and in your life with your kids, and just showing everybody, I think that they can do this no matter what's going on in their life, no matter what distractions they have, because we all have them. So thank you, little people, for showing that distractions exist and that it's still possible to make great life change even with those. And